Part 1. The perfect roommate, who wasn't perfect at all. Lisa had been looking for a roommate for 3 whole months. Her savings were getting thin, and she was starting to panic about paying rent for her small apartment in downtown. She had posted ads everywhere, online, at the local coffee shop, even on the bulletin board at work. Most people who responded were either too messy, too loud, or just plain weird. Then David messaged her. His first text was polite and professional. He said he was clean, quiet, and could pay 6 months' rent up front. Lisa almost deleted the message because it sounded too good to be true. Nobody pays 6 months in advance unless something is wrong with them, right? But her bank account was nearly empty, so she decided to give him a chance. They set up a video call for that evening. Lisa cleaned her apartment and practiced what she would say. She wanted to seem like a good roommate, too. When David's face appeared on her laptop screen, she was surprised. He looked completely normal, maybe even a little too perfect. His hair was neat, his shirt was pressed, and he had this calm smile that never seemed to change. "Hello, Lisa. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me," he said. His voice was smooth, almost like he was reading from a script. Lisa started, asking her usual roommate questions. "Do you smoke? Do you have pets? Are you okay with sharing the kitchen?" David answered everything perfectly. No smoking, no pets. He loved to cook but would always clean up after himself. He even said he preferred to keep the apartment at exactly 62 degrees because he ran hot. Lisa thought that was a little specific, but everyone has their quirks. There was something strange about the conversation, though. Every time Lisa made a joke or used a common phrase like, "That's awesome," or "no worries," David would pause for just a second too long before responding. It was like he was translating her words in his head first. Also, he never blinked. Not once during their 30-minute call. But Lisa was desperate, and David seemed safe enough. When he offered to transfer the money that same night, she said yes before she could change her mind. David moved in on a Tuesday morning. Lisa had expected to help him carry boxes or furniture, but he showed up with just 2 small suitcases and a strange metal case that he carried very carefully. When she offered to help, he quickly said no and took everything to his room himself. "I don't have much stuff," he explained. "I like to keep things simple." For the first week, Lisa thought she had won the roommate lottery. David was invisible. During the day, she never heard him moving around or playing music. The apartment stayed perfectly clean, almost like he was erasing any trace of himself as he went. He would leave money for utilities on the kitchen counter, always the exact amount needed. But then, the weird things started happening. It began with the food. Lisa would buy groceries on Sunday and put everything in the refrigerator. By Wednesday, items would be missing. Not eaten, completely gone. The leftover pizza she was saving for lunch, the container of yogurt she had just opened, even the milk carton would vanish without a trace. No empty containers in the trash, no dirty dishes. In the sink. Just gone. Lisa asked David about it, but he looked genuinely confused. "I haven't touched your food," he said. "Maybe you forgot you ate it?" She started labeling her food with her name, thinking maybe David was just forgetting what belonged to who. But the disappearances continued. Even stranger, David never seemed to eat anything she could see. She never found dirty dishes from him or saw him cooking meals. How was he surviving? Then the electronics started acting up. Lisa's microwave would turn on by itself in the middle of the night. She would wake up to hear it humming, and when she went to the kitchen, the display would show symbols she had never seen before. They looked almost like stars or constellations, definitely not numbers or letters. Her laptop started doing weird things too. Sometimes when she opened it in the morning, the screen would show what looked like maps of space instead of her normal desktop. David said maybe she had a virus, but Lisa had good antivirus software, and these weren't normal computer problems. The apartment's temperature was another mystery. No matter how she set the thermostat, it always ended up at exactly 62 degrees. Lisa tried adjusting it several times, but within an hour, it would be back to 62. David claimed he wasn't touching it, but Lisa was starting to doubt everything, he said. She began keeping a notebook, writing down all the strange things that happened. At first, she tried to find logical explanations. Maybe David was sleepwalking and throwing away food. Maybe he was some kind of computer expert playing pranks on her. Maybe the apartment had electrical problems. But deep down, something felt fundamentally different about David. He moved too quietly, like he was floating instead of walking. He never seemed to sleep. Lisa never heard him snoring or moving around in his bed at night. And there was something about his eyes that made her feel like he was studying her, like she was an interesting puzzle he was trying to solve. The strangest thing was how he talked. David's English was perfect, but sometimes he would use phrases. That sounded old-fashioned, like he had learned the language from books instead of from other people. He would say things like, "That is most agreeable," instead of "sounds good," or "I find that quite fascinating," when most people would just say, "cool." Lisa started paying more attention to David's habits. He never watched TV, never listened to music, never talked on the phone with friends or family. When she asked about his job, he said he worked in research, but he was always home by 3 p.m. and never seemed stressed about deadlines or meetings. One evening, Lisa decided to test something. She ordered pizza for dinner and offered to share it with David. He politely declined, saying he had already eaten. But Lisa had been home all day, and she never saw him cook anything or order food. Where had this mysterious meal come from? That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about all the weird things that had been happening since David moved in. Around 2 a.m., she got up to get a glass of water. As she walked toward the kitchen, she froze. David was standing in the living room, completely still, staring out the window at the night sky. He wasn't moving at all, not even breathing as far as Lisa could tell. He looked like a statue, except for his eyes, which seemed to be tracking something in the sky that Lisa couldn't see. "David?" she whispered. He turned toward her, and for just a moment, Lisa saw something that made her heart stop. His eyes reflected the light from the street lamp outside, glowing like an animal's eyes in the dark. His expression was so sad and lonely that Lisa felt her breath catch in her throat. Then he blinked, and his eyes looked normal again. "I apologize for disturbing you," he said in his formal way. "I was just looking at the stars. They're quite beautiful tonight." Lisa glanced out the window. The city lights blocked most of the stars, and she could only see a few dim points of light. Nothing that would keep someone staring for hours. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You looked really sad." David was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer than usual. "Sometimes I feel very far from home," he said. Something about the way he said it made Lisa's chest tight with sympathy. She wanted to ask more questions, but David excused himself and went to his room, leaving Lisa standing alone in the living room, staring out at the same sky and wondering what David saw there that she couldn't. As she went back to bed, Lisa realized that her perfectly normal, quiet life was about to become something completely different. She didn't know what David was hiding, but she was starting to understand that whatever it was much bigger than a few missing food containers and strange computer screens. Something told her that once she learned the truth about her mysterious roommate, nothing would ever be the same again. Part 2. Revelations and Reactions. The storm hit on a Thursday night, and it was the worst one Lisa had seen in years. Rain poured down like someone was dumping buckets from the sky, and the wind made the windows shake. Around 9 p.m., lightning struck somewhere close by, and the whole neighborhood went dark. Lisa fumbled around in the kitchen drawer for candles and her phone's flashlight. The apartment felt different in the dark, bigger and more mysterious. She called out to David to see if he was okay, but he didn't answer. "David, are you there?" She tried again, walking toward his room. Still no response. Lisa knocked on his bedroom door. "David, the power's out. Do you need a flashlight or anything?" When he still didn't answer, she got worried. What if something had happened to him? What if he had fallen or gotten hurt? She tried the door handle, and to her surprise, it was unlocked. "David, I'm coming in to check on you," she called, pushing the door open slowly. What she saw next changed everything. David was sitting on his bed, but he was glowing. Not like he had glow-in-the-dark paint on him, but actually glowing from inside his skin. The light was soft and blue-white, like moonlight, and it filled the entire room with a gentle brightness. Lisa stood frozen in the doorway, her mouth hanging open. Her brain couldn't process what she was seeing. People don't glow. That's not something that happens in real life. David looked up and saw her standing there. The moment their eyes met, the light immediately faded, like someone had turned off a dimmer switch. The room went dark again, and David collapsed backward onto his bed with a sound that could only be described as defeat. For a long moment, neither of them said anything. Lisa could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. "I suppose you have questions," David finally said. His voice sounded different, sadder, and with an accent that Lisa couldn't place. It definitely wasn't from anywhere she had ever heard before. Lisa's legs felt shaky, so she sat down on the floor right where she was standing. What was that? How were you?" "Glowing," David finished for her. "It's something my people do when we're relaxed or sleeping. I usually have better control over it, but the storm made me feel homesick, I guess you could say." "Your people?" Lisa's voice came out as a whisper. David sat up on his bed and looked at her. Even in the dark, she could see his eyes more clearly than she should have been able to. "Lisa, I'm not from here. Not from this city. Not from this country. Not even from this planet." Lisa felt like the floor was spinning. "You're telling me you're an alien?" "That's your word for it, yes." She waited for him to laugh or say he was joking, but he didn't. He just sat there, looking more tired and sad than she had ever seen anyone look. "This is crazy," Lisa said, mostly to herself. "This can't be real. People don't just live with aliens. That doesn't happen." "But it is happening," David said gently. "And I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I was trying so hard to be normal, to fit in. But the storm reminded me of home, and I let my guard down." Lisa's mind was racing. All the weird things that had been happening suddenly made sense. The missing food, the strange symbols on her microwave, the way David never seemed quite human. Because he wasn't human. "Where are you from?" she asked. David was quiet for a moment. "It's hard to explain in your language. My planet is very far away, in a part of space that your people haven't discovered yet. We call it something that would sound like music to you, not words." "What are you doing here? On Earth, I mean." "I'm part of a research team," David explained. "We're studying human behavior, trying to understand how your species lives and works together. My job was to observe normal human life, especially how people share living spaces and form relationships. So I'm like a science experiment to you?" David shook his head quickly. "It started that way, but it's not like that anymore. Living with you, talking with you, watching how kind and funny and smart you are, it changed everything for me." Lisa felt overwhelmed. "How many of you are here?" "Not many. Maybe 20 of us scattered around the world. We're supposed to stay hidden, observe quietly, and report back to our leaders after one of your years." "Why are you studying us?" David's expression grew even sadder. "Because my world is dying, Lisa. Our planet is getting too hot. Our air is becoming poisonous, and our people are looking for a new place to live. But we don't want to just take over somewhere. We want to understand if we could live peacefully alongside another species." Lisa felt a mix of fear and sympathy. Are you planning to invade Earth? No, David said firmly. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid. We want to know if cooperation is possible, if two different kinds of people can share the same world without fighting. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the storm outside. Lisa's mind was spinning with questions, but she was also trying to process how she felt about all this. She should be terrified, right? She should be calling the police or running away, but instead she felt curious. What's your real name? She asked. David made a sound that was like singing and humming at the same time. It was beautiful, but definitely not something Lisa could pronounce. David is close enough, he said. It's easier for humans to say. What do you look like? I mean, your real appearance? Not too different from this. We're very similar to humans, which is one reason we think our species might be able to coexist. The main differences are the glowing, stronger senses, and we're naturally empathic. Empathic? We can feel other people's emotions. Living with you has been intense. Humans feel things so strongly, so purely. It's beautiful and overwhelming at the same time. Lisa realized she was starting to believe him. Everything he was saying explained all the weird things she had noticed, and there was something about his sadness, his loneliness, that felt completely real. Are you homesick? She asked. Every day, David admitted. But also, I don't want to leave here anymore. I don't want to leave you. Something in the way he said it made Lisa's heart skip. What happens when your year is up? I'm supposed to return home with my observations. But Lisa, these months living with you have been the happiest of my life. You make me laugh, you're patient with my weird habits, and you make this strange world feel like home. Lisa felt her cheeks get warm. David, I know it's complicated, he said quickly. I know this changes everything, but I had to tell you the truth. I couldn't keep lying to someone who means so much to me. The power suddenly came back on, flooding the room with light. Lisa blinked as her eyes adjusted, and when she looked at David again, he looked completely human. But now she could see the small differences. The way his eyes seemed to hold more depth, the perfect way he sat, like he was always ready for anything. So, what do we do now? Lisa asked. David smiled, and it was the first completely genuine smile she had seen from him. I was hoping you might help me understand human culture better. And maybe you could help me figure out what to tell my people about the possibility of love between our species. Lisa's heart jumped at the word love, but she tried to stay calm. You mean you want me to help with your research? I mean I want you to help me understand what I'm feeling, David said. Because everything I was taught about humans is being challenged by how much I care about you. Lisa looked at this person, this alien, who had been living in her apartment, eating her food that disappeared completely, making her electronics do impossible things. She should be scared. She should be calling someone. She should be running away. Instead, she heard herself saying, "Okay, I'll help you, but you have to promise to be honest with me from now on." "I promise," David said. "No more secrets." As they shook hands on their agreement, Lisa couldn't help but think that her boring, normal life had just become the most extraordinary adventure she could ever imagine. And the strangest part was, she was excited to see what came next. Part 3, Learning to Live and Love. Across species, the next 3 months were the craziest and most amazing time of Lisa's life. Teaching David about human culture became like having a full-time job on top of her regular work, but it was the kind of job that made her excited to wake up every morning. The first disaster happened when David decided to surprise Lisa by cooking dinner. She came home from work to find smoke pouring out of their kitchen and what looked like a small rainbow spinning above the stove. "David," she yelled, running into the kitchen. "What did you do?" David stood in the middle of the chaos, holding a cookbook and looking completely confused. "I followed the recipe exactly," he said. "It said to add heat and stir, so I used my natural energy to heat the pan." "Your natural energy?" Lisa grabbed the fire extinguisher. "The same energy that makes me glow," David explained, stepping back as Lisa sprayed white foam everywhere. "I thought it would work better than your primitive." "Gas flames!" Lisa couldn't help laughing, even though their kitchen looked like a science experiment had exploded. "David, when humans cook, we use normal heat, not alien superpowers." The rainbow thing above the stove was still spinning. Lisa pointed at it. "And what is that?" David looked embarrassed. "I think I accidentally opened a small window to my home. Dimension. It should close on its own in a few minutes." Lisa sat down at their kitchen table and started laughing so hard she couldn't stop. Here she was, dealing with interdimensional cooking accidents like it was just another Tuesday. Her life had definitely gotten interesting. "Maybe we should start with simpler lessons," she suggested. So they did. Lisa taught David about human food by taking him grocery shopping. Watching David experience a supermarket for the first time was like seeing it through the eyes of a child. He was amazed by everything: the variety of foods, the refrigerated sections, the way music played overhead. "Your people store so many different types of nourishment in one place," he said, touching a banana like it was made of gold. "On my world, we only have 3 types of food." "Only 3?" Lisa asked. "We get all our nutrition from energy and minerals. But watching you eat different flavors and textures, it's like watching someone paint with tastes." Lisa started showing David her favorite foods. Pizza made him incredibly happy because, as he explained, the combination of flavors created what he could only describe as taste music in his mind. Ice cream confused him at first because his people didn't understand the concept of eating something cold for pleasure. But after one bite of chocolate chip mint, he was converted. "This is better than the energy crystals from home," he said, eating his 3rd bowl. "Don't eat too much or you'll get sick," Lisa warned. "My people don't get sick from food," David said. Then he spent the next hour lying on the couch with a stomachache, learning about human digestive limits the hard way. The entertainment lessons were just as amusing. David decided he needed to understand human stories, so he watched every romantic movie Lisa owned in 2 days straight. The results were interesting. "I've learned that human males are supposed to run through airports to declare their feelings," David announced after his movie marathon. "That's not really how it works in real life," Lisa explained. "And they must always fight other males for the female's attention?" "David, those are just movies. Real relationships are more complicated than that." But David's favorite human activity turned out to be stargazing. One clear night, Lisa found him on their apartment building's roof, staring up at the sky. "Want some company?" she asked, climbing up beside him. "Always," David said, and something about the way he said it made Lisa's heart flutter. They lay down on the roof together, looking up at the stars. "Tell me about your home," Lisa said. David pointed to a part of the sky that looked empty to Lisa. "It's there, but too far for your eyes to see. We have 2 suns, so our sky is always bright during the day. And at night, we can see 7 moons. 7 moons? That must be beautiful." "It is. But I've started to love your single moon more. It's more focused, like it's paying attention to just this one world instead of trying to light up everything." David started sharing stories about his planet, how his people lived in harmony with their environment until the climate started changing, how they communicated through emotions as much as words, how they had never experienced war because they could feel each other's pain. "That's why being here is so hard sometimes," David explained. "I can feel your emotions, Lisa. When you're happy, I feel happy. When you're sad, it breaks my heart." Lisa turned to look at him. "Is that why you always seem to know exactly what to say when I've had a bad day?" "Yes. And it's also why I'm falling in love with you, even though I know I shouldn't," The words hung in the air between them like stars. Lisa felt her breath catch in her throat. "David?" "I know it's impossible," he said quickly. "I know I'm supposed to leave in a few months. I know we're from different worlds, literally. But I can't help how I feel." Lisa had been fighting the same feelings for weeks. Every day, David showed her something new about himself. His kindness, his curiosity, his way of seeing beauty in things she had stopped noticing. He made her laugh. He listened to her dreams, and he looked at her like she was the most fascinating person in the universe. "Maybe impossible things happen sometimes," she said softly. That was the night they had their first kiss. It happened, slowly, naturally, like they had been moving toward that moment since the night David had told her the truth. When their lips touched, Lisa felt something electric pass between them, not just attraction, but understanding. David's empathic abilities meant he could feel exactly how much she cared about him, and she could sense the depth of his feelings in return. "Is this normal for humans?" David asked afterward, his forehead resting against hers. "No," Lisa laughed. "Nothing about this is normal, but it feels right." Their relationship grew deeper every day. David helped Lisa see her own world with fresh eyes. He would get excited about things she took for granted, the way rain sounded against windows, the smell of coffee in the morning, the way humans smiled, with their whole faces when they were truly happy. Lisa helped David understand that emotions weren't weaknesses to be studied, but strengths that connected people across any distance. She taught him about human traditions, like birthday parties and holiday celebrations. She showed him her favorite places in the city, watched him experience human art and music for the first time. They developed their own language of inside jokes and meaningful looks. David would do his little glow thing when he was especially happy, and Lisa learned to recognize the subtle changes in his expressions that meant he was homesick or worried about his mission. But the calendar on Lisa's wall kept reminding them that their time together had limits. David's people expected him to return with his research, and there was no handbook for what they were building together. They avoided talking about the future, choosing instead to make every day count. David taught Lisa to see constellations she had never noticed before. Lisa taught David to dance, which resulted in several furniture casualties but a lot of laughter. "Whatever happens," David told her one evening as they cleaned up after another cooking disaster, "these months with you have been the best of my existence. You've taught me that love isn't something to be analyzed or understood. It's something to be experienced and cherished." Lisa smiled, but inside her heart was breaking a little more each day. Because no matter how much they loved each other, she couldn't see how their story could have a happy ending. David belonged to the stars, and she belonged to Earth. But love, as she was learning, had a way of changing everything, even the impossible. Part 4. When Two Worlds Collide. Lisa was having the best morning of her life when everything started falling apart. She woke up in David's arms, sunlight streaming through their bedroom window, feeling completely happy for the first time in months. They had finally stopped pretending they were just roommates and admitted they were completely in love with each other. David was still sleeping, his face peaceful and relaxed. In the morning light, she could see the faint glow under his skin that he couldn't always control. Lisa smiled and kissed his forehead gently, trying not to wake him up. That's when she heard the key turning in the front door. Lisa's blood went cold. She had completely forgotten that her sister Rachel was coming to visit today. Rachel, who worked as a lawyer and noticed every tiny detail. Rachel, who had been suspicious about Lisa's mysterious roommate from the very beginning. "Lisa? Are you home?" Rachel's voice echoed through the apartment. Lisa jumped out of bed so fast she nearly fell over. "David, wake up!" she whispered urgently. "My sister is here." David opened his eyes immediately, instantly alert in that way that reminded Lisa he wasn't entirely human. "What should I do?" "Just be normal." Answer her questions simply. Don't say anything weird about space or energy or your people. Lisa threw on clothes and rushed to the living room, where Rachel was already looking around with that sharp lawyer expression she got when something didn't seem right. "Hey, Rachel," Lisa said, trying to sound casual. "I forgot you were coming today." Rachel hugged her, but her eyes were scanning the apartment. "This place looks different, cleaner. And why is it so cold in here?" "Oh, David likes it cool," Lisa said without thinking. "The mysterious roommate. Where is he? I'm dying to meet this guy who pays 6 months' rent in advance." As if summoned by her words, David appeared in the hallway, fully dressed and wearing his most polite smile. "You must be Rachel. Lisa has told me wonderful things about you." Rachel shook David's hand, and Lisa watched her sister's face carefully. Rachel was studying David like he was evidence in a court case. "So, David, what do you do for work?" Rachel asked. "I'm in research," David replied smoothly. "What kind of research?" David paused for just a moment too long. "Cultural studies. I observe social behaviors and document patterns." Lisa felt her stomach clench. That was technically true, but it sounded weird when he said it like that. Rachel's eyebrows went up. "Interesting. What company do you work for?" Another pause. "It's a small, private organization. Very specialized." "And where did you live before moving in with Lisa?" "I've moved around quite a bit. I don't tend to stay in one place for very long." Lisa could see Rachel's lawyer brain working. Every answer David gave was vague and suspicious, even though he was telling the truth in his own way. "Well," Rachel said with a fake smile, "I'm sure you won't mind if I do a little background check. I'm very protective of my sister." David looked confused. "Background check?" "You know, verify your employment, check your references, make sure you are who you say you are." Lisa saw panic flash across David's face for just a second before he controlled it. Of course, that's very reasonable. But Lisa knew David's fake identity wouldn't hold up to serious investigation. Everything about him was carefully constructed but not deep enough to fool someone as thorough as Rachel. Over the next few hours, Rachel asked more and more questions. Where did David grow up? What was his family like? What was his college like? David answered everything, but his responses sounded rehearsed and strange. When Rachel went to the bathroom, David grabbed Lisa's arm. "I don't think this is going well," he whispered. "Just hang in there," Lisa said. "She'll leave tomorrow and everything will be fine." But Lisa was wrong. Rachel didn't leave the next day. Instead, she extended her visit, claiming she wanted to spend more time with Lisa. But really, she was investigating David. By the third day, Rachel had found problems with David's story. His previous address didn't exist. His employer's phone number went to a disconnected line. His references couldn't be reached. "Lisa, we need to talk," Rachel said, pulling her aside while David was in the shower. "Something is very wrong with your roommate." "What do you mean?" "I mean, nothing about him checks out. His background is completely fake. I think he's running some kind of scam and you're the target." Lisa felt trapped between protecting David and not lying to her sister. "Rachel, you're being paranoid." "Am I?" "Lisa, this guy pays cash, has no verifiable history, and gives weird answers to simple questions. Those are all red flags for someone dangerous." "He's not dangerous. You don't understand." "Then explain it to me," Rachel demanded. "Tell me why every single thing about him is suspicious." Lisa couldn't answer without revealing David's secret, and she had promised to keep it safe. "Just trust me, okay? David is a good person." But Rachel wasn't satisfied. That evening, she confronted David directly. "I know you're lying about who you are," she told him. "I've checked everything, and your whole identity is fake. What are you really doing here?" David looked at Lisa with desperate eyes. She could see him trying to decide whether to tell Rachel the truth or make up another lie. "I can't tell you that." David said finally. Why not? Because you wouldn't believe me, and it would put Lisa in danger. That was exactly the wrong thing to say. Rachel's protective instincts went into overdrive. Danger? What kind of danger? Lisa, what has this man gotten you into? Nothing, Lisa said. Rachel, please just drop this. But Rachel was already pulling out her phone. I'm calling the police. If you won't tell me what's going on, maybe they can figure it out. No! Lisa grabbed her sister's phone. You can't call the police. Why not? Unless he's done something illegal. That's when David made the worst decision possible. He could feel Lisa's panic and fear through his empathic abilities, and her emotions overwhelmed his control. Please don't call them, David said, his voice cracking with stress, and as the words left his mouth, he started to glow. Not just a little bit this time. His whole body lit up like a blue-white lantern, filling the living room with otherworldly light. Every electronic device in the apartment went crazy at once. The TV turned on by itself and started showing star charts. The microwave began displaying those strange symbols again. Lisa's laptop screen flickered with images of distant planets. Rachel dropped her phone and stumbled backward, her mouth open in shock. What are you? She whispered. David looked at Lisa with tears in his glowing eyes. I'm sorry, he said. I couldn't control it anymore. The glow faded, and David collapsed onto the couch, exhausted and defeated. The apartment went quiet except for the sound of electronic devices slowly returning to normal. Rachel stood frozen, for a long moment, staring at David like he was a monster. Then she started screaming. Lisa, get away from him! Get away from that thing! Rachel, please! That's not human! That's not human, Lisa! Rachel grabbed her purse and backed toward the door. I'm calling the police, the FBI, the military. Someone needs to know about this. Rachel, wait! But her sister was already gone, running down the hallway like her life depended on it. Lisa closed the door and leaned against it, her heart pounding. When she turned around, David was sitting with his head in his hands. I've ruined everything, he said quietly. I've put you in danger and now I have to leave. David, no! Lisa, your sister is going to bring people here. Government people, military people. They'll want to capture me and study me, and they'll think you've been helping hide me. Lisa sat down next to him and took his hands. We'll figure this out. We'll explain. There's nothing to explain that won't make things worse for you, David said. I have to go now before they come looking. Where will you go? Back to my ship. Back to my people. This was always temporary, Lisa. I just forgot that for a while. Lisa felt her heart breaking. I don't want you to go. I don't want to go either. But I won't let loving you destroy your life. As David started packing his few belongings, Lisa realized that fighting for their love meant fighting for David's safety. She had to choose between the safe, predictable world she had always known and a future that was uncertain but filled with the person she loved more than anything. Outside, she could hear sirens getting closer. Time was running out, and Lisa had to decide what she was willing to risk for love. Part 5. Love transcends all boundaries. The sirens were getting louder, and Lisa knew they had maybe 5 minutes before her apartment would be surrounded by people who wanted to take David away forever. She watched him pack his metal case with shaking hands, and something inside her snapped. No, she said firmly. David looked up, confused. Lisa, we don't have time. No, I'm not letting you just disappear. We're going to face this together. Lisa, you don't understand. If they find you with me, they'll think you're part of some conspiracy. They might arrest you, question you, ruin your life. Lisa grabbed David's hands and made him look at her. My life is already ruined without you in it. I'd rather face whatever comes next with you than spend the rest of my days wondering what could have been. Before David could argue, there was a loud knock on the door. This is Dr. Elena Rodriguez with the Department of Extraterrestrial Research. a woman's voice called out. "We'd like to speak with the residents of this apartment." Lisa and David looked at each other in surprise. Not the police, not the military. Someone from a department Lisa had never heard of. "Lisa, Chen, and David, we know you're in there," the voice continued. "We're not here to arrest anyone. We'd like to talk." Lisa made a decision that would change everything. She walked to the door and opened it. Standing in the hallway was a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a calm expression. Behind her were two other people who looked more like scientists than soldiers. "Ms. Chen, my name is Dr. Rodriguez. We received a call from your sister, but I want you to know that she's safe, and we've explained the situation to her." "What situation?" Lisa asked. "The situation where you've been living with one of our friends." Dr. Rodriguez smiled at David, who had appeared behind Lisa. "Hello, David. Or should I say, hello to our Zephyrian researcher." David stared at her in shock. "You know who I am?" "We've known about you and your team since you arrived on Earth," Dr. Rodriguez said gently. "In fact, we've been working with your people for much longer than you know." Lisa felt like the world was spinning again. "Working with them," Dr. Rodriguez gestured toward the living room. "May we come in? This is a conversation that's better had sitting down." A few minutes later, Lisa found herself sitting on her couch listening to the most incredible story she had ever heard. It turned out that David's people had been in contact with a small group of human scientists for over 20 years. The research mission David thought he was on was actually part of a much bigger project. "Your people and ours have been working together to solve problems that affect both our worlds," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "Climate change, energy shortages, environmental damage, these are challenges we both face." "But I thought this was a secret observation mission," David said. "It was, in a way, but not the kind you thought. We've been studying whether our two species can form genuine emotional connections, whether love can truly exist between beings from different worlds." Lisa felt her cheeks get warm. "You've been studying our relationship?" Dr. Rodriguez smiled. "Not just yours. There are 12 other couples like you around the world. Humans and Zephyrians who met through the roommate program and fell in love." 12 other couples? David looked amazed. "The results have been extraordinary," Dr. Rodriguez continued. "Every single pairing has resulted in deep, meaningful relationships. It's proof that emotional connection transcends species barriers." Lisa was trying to process everything. "So our whole relationship was part of an experiment?" "The opportunity was created by the experiment," Dr. Rodriguez said carefully. "But what you two built together was completely real. No one could have forced the feelings you developed for each other." David reached for Lisa's hand. "She's right. Even if they were watching, everything I feel for you came from my heart." Dr. Rodriguez pulled out a tablet and showed them pictures of other couples, humans and Zephyrians holding hands, laughing together, looking exactly like Lisa and David did. "The program has been so successful that both our governments have decided to move to the next phase," she explained. "We're going to announce the partnership publicly and begin the first official cultural exchange program between Earth and Zephyra." Lisa's head was spinning. "You mean this is all going to be public knowledge?" "Within the next 6 months, yes. Both worlds are ready to take this step, and couples like you and David are going to be the proof that cooperation between our species is not just possible, but beautiful." David was quiet for a long moment. "What does this mean for us?" "It means you don't have to choose between your mission and your heart," Dr. Rodriguez said. "Your relationship with Lisa is your mission now. You're pioneers in interspecies cooperation." Lisa felt tears starting in her eyes. "So David doesn't have to leave?" "Not unless he wants to. We're setting up permanent residency programs for Zephyrians who want to stay on Earth, and travel programs for humans who want to visit Zephyra." "I could visit David's home world?" Lisa asked. "Eventually, yes. The technology for safe human space travel is one of the things our peoples are developing together." David was staring at Dr. Rodriguez like she had just offered him the greatest gift in the universe. I can stay with Lisa? You can stay with Lisa. In fact, we're hoping you will. We want you and the other couples to help us show both worlds what this partnership can look like. Lisa couldn't hold back her tears anymore. The relief was overwhelming. Just an hour ago, she thought she was losing David forever. Now they were being told their love was not just accepted but celebrated. "What about my sister?" Lisa asked. She was pretty terrified. "Rachel is fine," Dr. Rodriguez assured her. "She's actually at our research facility now, learning about the program. I think once she understands what's really happening, she'll be very proud of you both." Over the next few hours, Dr. Rodriguez explained how the public announcement would work. There would be carefully planned reveals, educational programs, and lots of support for the mixed couples who would become public figures. "It won't be easy," she warned them. "Some people will be scared or angry about the idea of humans and Zephyrians together. But we believe that seeing couples like you will help others understand that love really does transcend any boundary." 6 months later, Lisa stood in front of a crowd of reporters and cameras holding David's hand. They were at the first official Earth-Zephyra cultural exchange ceremony, and they had just been introduced as one of the founding couples of the integration program. "How did you know that David was different?" a reporter asked. Lisa smiled and looked at David, whose hand was glowing softly with happiness. "I think when you meet the right person, you know they're special. I just didn't realize how special until later." "What's the biggest challenge in your relationship?" another reporter called out. David answered this one. "Learning that love means the same thing on any world. The feelings are universal, even if the people having them are different." As they answered more questions, Lisa looked out at the crowd. She saw humans and Zephyrians standing together, some holding hands, some with children who looked like beautiful combinations of both species. Rachel was in the front row, beaming with pride and wearing a t-shirt that said, "My sister is a cosmic pioneer." The future was still uncertain. There would be challenges, protests, and lots of hard work ahead. But there would also be amazing discoveries, new friendships, and proof that the universe was much more connected than anyone had ever imagined. That night, as Lisa and David sat on their apartment roof looking up at the stars, Lisa thought about how far they had come from that first awkward roommate interview. "Do you ever regret staying?" she asked David. David's answer came without hesitation. "Never. You taught me that home isn't a place. It's whoever makes you feel like you belong in the universe." Lisa kissed him under the light of Earth's single moon, knowing that their strange love story had become something bigger than either of them had ever dreamed. Sometimes the best adventures started with the most ordinary decisions, like posting an ad for a roommate and hoping for the best. And sometimes, if you were really lucky, the best was even more amazing than you could have possibly imagined.